Hello Cave Dwellers. Since opening the Cave as a retro computer museum and the arcade archive here at the Retro Collective, we've enjoyed over 5,000 visitors, and I enjoy hosting in this space every weekend. And 5,000 people is a really surprising number of people when you consider we only really open on a Saturday. The Cave is open most weeks for 3 hours on a Saturday, and then people go down to the arcade and the occasional Sunday. So I'm really happy with how it's going, and I've tried to make the most of the space throughout since we've opened. You've seen me develop exhibitions like the rare and exotic Japanese space at one end of the Cave, which has proved a hit, and we've been able to expand upon that with things like the Sega Terra Drive and the FM Towns Car Marty. I'm not sure where else you'd go in the country to try those out. We redeveloped a storeroom to become an IBM PC area, and then more recently an Apple Mac area, and there's still some work to do in there, but that expanded the experience again and gave people lots more things to enjoy. I'm buoyed by the success, the visitor numbers, and simply hosting on a Saturday and seeing people walk through that door and have the time of their lives in here. I want to make it a better and better experience for people. I really want to give them the most value for money and the most enjoyment that they can have when they come and visit here. And that means turning as many storerooms as possible that I have here into publicly accessible exhibition spaces, all of which tell a story. And the next space is behind this wall here. This is a wall that we built during the original build in 2022. It was a storeroom behind here with a hidden door, and it served its purpose very well as a storeroom. Sometimes more organized than other times. Lots of speaker cables, CCTV cables, terminated here, but kind of cable tied about because, hey, the public would never come in here and see it, so we don't need to worry too much about that. And I can tell you, as someone who worked in the attractions and museum industry a lot, every museum has back rooms like this. It's just the way it is. But now we need to change this completely, and we're going to change it into a space that we call the Dev Den. It's something you may have heard me talk about in the past. Certainly if you're a patron, we've mentioned the Dev Den. It's been ongoing for about a year, the plans to do this. And it's going to be less of a hands-on gaming space. It's going to be more of an educational space, and it's going to tell the story of development. Now, not just games, just development in general. It will include a display case, which will range from bedroom coding tools through to professional coding tools to dev kits, like some of the examples that I have on the table here. These really need to be on display and have their stories told, because these are things that most people never get to see. And it's really exciting to learn how your favorite game or piece of software was created and the tools that were behind it. It will also showcase developers and celebrate their lives. Here's an example of a box of bits that we have here, which were dropped off by the son of David Marshall, founder of Digital Integration. And it's a box full of photographs, design documents, and scrapbooks documenting the man's life in the industry. This needs to be shared. In fact, this needs an episode all of its own about the history of David, but it also needs to be shared on display and celebrated by visitors. So it's going to be a really valuable extension of the Cave, a new area, a new exhibit. And to cap it all off, my friend Jason, a regular volunteer at the Cave, is going to position himself in there to help tell the stories. Now, we will get to meet Jason today. He was a published game developer in the 80s. Now, we're not talking huge AAA titles. He managed to get a few games out, which I'm sure he will humbly tell us about a little bit later today. And you'll be able to come in here and see him working on them while he explains to you exactly what he's doing, what the hardware is doing, and, well, how people developed in this particular snapshot of time in the 80s in which he developed with this particular set of tools. He's also a musician, so we're going to have a MIDI area set up. So we're talking development, music creation, and celebration of all things development in this room. But first of all, we need to create the room. And there's a lot of work to do today. This is going to be a two-part series, and by the end of part one, we want to have the room prepared, the blank canvas, the equipment lined up ready to go in there, and then in part two, we'll do all the finishing touches to really stylize it and make it a visitor attraction space. So let's get started with the Dev Den. It's that part of the episode where I say a big thank you to PCBWay.com for supporting the channel. If you're working on your own project and you need PCB manufacturing, 3D printing, CNC work, and much more besides, then PCBWay.com is the place to go. And while you're there, make sure you check out their shared project section, which is just rammed full of projects to support vintage hardware. It's well worth a look. Thank you, PCBWay.com. I say let's get started. We actually started 7 or 8 months ago because the first job was to process and pack everything that had been accumulated in the storeroom there. To do that, we needed to extend our back-end system, which is currently used for ticket sales, to add an entire inventory module to it. We did look at off-the-shelf packages, but we just couldn't find anything that suited us or was affordable in the way that we needed it to be without expensive subscriptions. So we went ahead and created our own, and we started processing every single thing that was in the storeroom. Everything had to be cleaned, bagged and asset tagged. We had to make sure any cables were individually wrapped and protected so that they wouldn't deteriorate or cause cable burns, as we've seen so many times in the past against plastics. Everything had to be done properly, and it took a lot of time. At the end of this process, we'd inventoried nearly 2,000 items from that storeroom. It was a really good test of the new inventory system, and it was just a taster of the tens of thousands of items that we'll need to inventory on display in the other storeroom and, well, just squirreled away everywhere in the cave. If we're going to be a proper museum, we need to get on top of the inventory system, and those of you who have followed me for a long time know how organically this place has grown. And we decided about a year ago we must make the inventory system a priority, which is why we created it. And now we're putting things in proper. And this was such a good test for it. We did make tweaks along the way, and we are prepared now, with the help of the volunteers, to process in the other storeroom the tens of thousands of items. It's going to be a big task, but we're just focused on this one for now. At the end of that process, we still had a lot of random things in the storeroom. Boxes, packing materials for the online shop. rmcretro.store, by the way, if you want to go and check out my online shop. That was all in there because I needed it to hand to pack the orders as and when they came in. That'll all need to find a new home. And it looks even messier than it was because all of the racking had been taken down, so there were no shelves to put things on. And you can see here that Jason and I have got to work on clearing the room so that we can start to create this new exhibit. There's Jason there helping me, and well, it's probably about time that we met him proper, briefly at first, because we will get to know him throughout these 2 episodes and see what he's all about. But let's meet Jason. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Neil.
We've been busy this last week, haven't we?
We have been very busy,
as you will see as the build progresses in this video. But I wanted the viewers to get to know you a little bit first.
Sure.
So you were a game developer.
1985, I started a small little software house with my best friend, Tom Lanigan, who was a graphic artist. The software house was called Pagoda Software. We just developed games ourselves and then sold them through publishers. We produced 3 games, 2 of which were published, 1 was never finished.
Mm-hmm. I've got one example here. This is Alien Slime. This is the Amstrad version. But
absolutely.
You were more of was it just a C64 developer?
I was just a C64 developer, yeah.
And then others ported your game. So here's one such example. It's a nod to Alien Syndrome.
It has elements that are similar to Alien Syndrome, but it's actually a very different game from Alien Syndrome, yeah.
And part of what we're doing in the Dev Den will replicate that Pagoda Software Studio, the kit that you were using. And we are going to see some of that kit later on in the episode today.
Absolutely.
It's not working yet, is it? Or is it?
No. Well,
untested?
Some of it is untested because obviously some of it I bought specifically for the Dev Den.
Yeah.
But really, it's just a case of it's not all wired up yet. So
right.
We haven't got round to that yet.
We haven't figured out which plug sockets to use.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all just sort of plonked on the desks at the moment.
But we will get a little tour of some of this kit later. So following Pagoda Software, what did you do next? Yeah,
well, Pagoda Software went on until very early 1989. And then after that, in 1989, I did actually work briefly for PD Systems, who were the people who created the PDS, and they'd been subcontracted to do the development system for the ill-fated Konix multi-system super console.
Oh, right. So you'll have some insights.
Well, there's small insights into that. Yeah. I mean, I only worked for them for 3 weeks. I coded the DSP disassembler. But to be honest with you, they just didn't pay enough. Yeah, sure. And it was in London, and after all the expenses, it just wasn't worth it. So I finished the code for the DSP disassembler, and then I went my own way from them.
And you mentioned there PDS, which is going to be at the heart of the Dev Den and what you're demonstrating to people. What does PDS stand for?
It's Programmers Development System.
And this was like the next step up from bedroom coding, wasn't it? If you were going to be a professional coder, I mean, there are many ways of coding, many ways to skin a cat, but this was one way that a lot of software houses chose to use.
Absolutely. I mean, PDS was the first kind of professional development system for 8-bit coders. I mean, most people started off coding on the machine itself using some sort of assembler editor. I mean, I did that myself. Some software houses did kind of their own in-house system where they connected two machines, so they'd have a machine that they edited and assembled on, and then a target machine that they would send the code to, whether it's Spectrum, Amstrad, Commodore, whatever. And PDS was kind of along those lines, but it was a much more developed system. It was much more formalized. It was very comprehensive, and it became a sort of professional standard, really.
Yeah. So the target within the dev den is going to be, for the things that you're demonstrating, that 8-bit era, isn't it? It's going to be the Z80, the 650.
Primarily, yes. I mean, certainly to start off with, we're going to be focusing on the big three in the UK, which is the Commodore 64, the Spectrum, and the Amstrad CPCs.
The Amstrad CPC, that's the best, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the only one we don't have the actual PDS. Although we got the PDS system, we don't have the interface for the Amstrad. Now, we are. We're hoping that someone's going to be lending us one of those.
Right. Are you talking to someone at the moment? Or?
Yeah. I mean, this is someone Holly knows, and in fact, it's someone who's visited the code. It was the chap who actually created this version of Daily and the Slime. So hopefully he's going to be lending us his old PDS system.
If not, then perhaps we can talk to Heber downstairs and we can get the adapter made up.
But
we're getting into the long grass now. Jason is going to go into a lot of detail about development, the systems he uses, more so than I normally would on my channel, which is why he's got his own channel as well, the Dev Den. So I'll put a link down below. There's no content on there yet. No. And you're not going to put any pressure on yourself to make videos every week or every other week, just as and when it happens.
Absolutely, yeah.
But there's going to be some really interesting stuff on there. And of course, the Dev Den, part of the cave, part of the studio here, so we'll be dipping in and out to see Jason from time to time, or use his kit when he's not here, don't tell him, for the purposes of making videos. Anyway, we've got a lot of building to do, so let's get back into that, and we'll come out again, Jason, and look at the kit a bit later.
Sure. There we go. Oh, lovely, yeah. There we go, the first one.
And we've got 5 days. That's the target we set ourselves, isn't it, Jason?
That's correct,
It was quite a
ambitious
target. And that first target is to have a blank canvas. And no, before you ask, we're not creating a dingy developer's office with tobacco-stained ceiling tiles. Not today. We're going to go for a bright, clean aesthetic, aren't we? An inspiring space, a nod to the 70s?
It's more of a stylised tribute to the 70s and the 80s. It's kind of an idealised version of a developer's office.
So we'll see that in the way it looks at the end, but also some of the colour choices, which you'll see maybe at the end of this part as we get to that stage, hopefully. And then it was time to paint the old mill walls, or the cheese walls as we call them, because they love to crumble. As you'll find, Jason, if you try to drill anything into any of these walls, they just turn to Swiss cheese. They are a pain to paint as well, because we need a large brush and we just need to stab the walls. That was my approach. Did you take up the stabbing approach?
It was more kind of small scale stabbing. I went for the detail.
I went for broad stabs. You went for small stabs. There was a lot of stabbing going on as we painted these walls. And it was goodbye to the magnolia and hello to the bright white paint, which immediately made a difference. It really did freshen the room up, didn't it?
Absolutely.
If you want some mill facts, I know you're all here for the mill facts. This building in its current form was built in the 1800s by a gentleman by the name of Charles Ballinger. But there has been a mill on this site since 1439. Over the years, it's produced cloth, flour. It's been used for dyeing cloth, for agricultural engineering, like tractor production. It's been an upholstery works. We think wooden gliders were made here towards the end of the Second World War, but that was all hush-hush top secret. It's been a water pumping station, and now, of course, it's the home of Heber, an electronics firm, and, of course, a retro computer museum and an arcade. So we, and now the Dev Den, are part of its long history. I think we're on day 2 at this point, and I was pretty happy that we were on schedule so far. I'm not sure I told Jason the schedule at this point, had I?
No.
I don't think you'd realise quite how ambitious the 5-day schedule was, but he was starting to pick up on my urgency to get this done. But we were going to need to knock up another wall for this build, and that was going to be to complete the room, but also we wanted to hide all the cabling in the wall. And there's a goods lift in the corner, which sadly that lift doesn't come all the way up to my floor, as Jason has found when he's been lugging his stuff up the stairs. But the goods lift does need to be accessible for servicing from our floor. So we need to make sure we've got a door there. And I've made sure that all the wiring goes into that same corner. So we'll have the goods lift, we'll have a comms cupboard, we'll have the CCTV, the amp for the speakers. Everything's going to be nice and neat in there. Next up, I clad the existing wall that we'd put up in anticipation of the arrival of Richard, who's going to knock up another stud wall for me, and that's going to butt up against the existing one. And here he is, Richard, who is much more of a precise engineer than I could ever be. He's our man for anything that's more complex than ripping up carpets or drilling panels to walls. And he put these walls up originally, so he's going to crack on with this one now. Are you a DIYer?
I am a DIYer, but my skills only extend so far.
You did say to me you're a decorator rather than a DIY.
No, quite the opposite. No,
Oh.
I prefer DIY to decorating. I can't stand decorating.
Oh, I got it the wrong way round. Okay. This is all coming along really nicely now. I can see it coming together, and we're going to come back to the building shortly. But first, I really want to learn something about the kit that Jason's going to put in here. So let's take a look at that. This is the fun part then. Here's probably the centerpiece of the kit that you'll be using in the Dev Den and demonstrating.
Yes.
And it is a low-cost Amstrad PC.
Absolutely.
Is that what I'm looking at?
It is, yes. Yeah, this is a second generation Amstrad PC, 2086.
Yeah.
With the basic 8086 CPU.
Have we at least got 640K?
We have got 640K. That is required to run the PDS system.
Right.
But in terms of the CPU, it's perfectly adequate to run the PDS.
Okay. What makes it special? How does this become a PDS?
Well, basically, the PDS is a combination of hardware and software. There is an 8-bit ISA card that fits into the machine.
Is it in there?
It's not actually in there at the moment.
got it here?
It's separately. Yes, I've got it separately. Yeah.
And that just gives us, looks like, a couple of outputs or input.
Yes,
and an output.
you've got 2 channels, so you can connect to 2 different machines at the same time.
And when you say
quite handy.
2 different machines, what are we connecting to?
Well, it depends on the interfaces you've got, but I mean, we have the interfaces for the Commodore 64 and the Sinclair Spectrum, and as I mentioned earlier, we're looking for the Amstrad interface, which hopefully we'll have soon.
So this slots in, and then you've got a couple of interfaces.
Yes.
So presumably on the ZX Spectrum, for example, there's a cartridge or something that slots on.
It's a little bit more complicated than the 64 one. Yeah, it requires more hardware for the interfacing.
And the 64, that's just straight into the
It literally
slot.
just goes into the expansion slot, yeah.
And then what software are you using? Is PDS the environment as well?
Yeah, it's a specialised program. It's an editor, assembler, debugger, and it has a few other little toys on it as well.
All in one. And
Yeah.
then what happens? You compile
Well,
on the
basically,
PC.
you edit, you assemble on this machine, and then when you're ready, you can download it to the target machine. And then you can either run it or you can step through it and do all sorts of debugging tricks.
I mean, I can't wait to see this in action. But the target machine, let's say we've got a ZX Spectrum then hooked up to this.
Yeah.
You've written your code, you press compile, and then you send the compiled code to the ZX Spectrum. And the Spectrum's like a zombie, is it? It just clicks into action and runs the program? Or are you doing something on the
Once you
Spectrum?
put the code in place, you can then choose to either run the code at full speed, or you can step through it, or you can sort of jump through sections of the code. It's quite there's quite a variety of things you can do.
I've never been so excited about an Amstrad PC. Can't wait to see it in action.
Absolutely.
Jason, do we know if this is working?
No.
Let's look at the next bit of kit. Next up, this is a really nice looking bit of kit. What is it?
It is, yeah. This is an Atari Mega STE.
Mega ST.
Mega ST. It was the last of the ST range of machines.
Right. So this is Pinnacle ST. Before we get to the Atari Falcons.
Yeah, and the TT, which came out around about the same time.
Okay. This is made to be like a monitor stand, isn't it?
Yeah, it has a monitor that is designed to fit on the top here. Yeah.
Okay. And is this?
That's
storage?
a hard drive.
Hard drive over
Hard
this
drive.
side.
Yeah.
On the subject of hard drives. Are you going to use modern SD card solutions? How authentic are you going with your setups in the DevDem?
Well, on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to keep it as original as possible. So I will be using magnetic media. I know. You're not the first, and I'm sure you won't be the last person to say how mad that is.
Tell me about your backup system.
I will be backing up on modern storage, but just for the data. I mean, obviously, the whole point is to show people how things were done back in the day, and and that's not going to be you if I pull out a pen drive or something.
You want
like
to
that.
hear the chuntering and the spinning of the hard drive as it compiles. Fair enough. We'll see how that goes. Look out for a future episode of the Mega ST Repair, Trash to Treasure. You've got a little space to put your pen there or your cigarettes.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got a keyboard with nice blue keycaps.
Yeah.
You favour the trackball.
I've always favoured the trackball. I mean, particularly on music applications. Yeah.
In terms of spec, obviously, it's got the hard drive built in.
Yeah.
Do you know how much memory this came with?
I believe it's 4 megabytes.
4 meg. Okay.
Yeah, as standard.
Anything else above and beyond a standard?
Well, one of the interesting things about this machine is that the built-in 68000 is actually a dual speed. It can run at the normal 8 megahertz, or it can run at a double speed 16 megahertz.
Okay.
So. And
we haven't said it yet, but this is going to be at the heart of the music side of the DevDem.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's got MIDI ports.
Absolutely, yes. Well, this is the thing. I mean, the Atari ST range were very popular amongst musicians and studios during the 80s and the early 90s.
And you've got some background in the music industry, haven't you?
I have, yes. Yeah. I did run a small recording studio for a while, and the first incarnation of that was very much an analog studio. It ran on reel-to-reel tape, but handling the MIDI side, I did have an Atari Mega ST2 running Cubase software. Yeah.
I mean, we joke about MIDI ports and Atari STs, but I've always heard that the STs had really good timing on the MIDI
side. Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
I mean, it was a rock solid system. I mean, I had mine connected to the 24-track tape using SMPTE time code, and it was just absolutely on the nail every time. Never a problem with it.
I joke that it's got MIDI ports, but now I'm looking around, I can't see it. Where are the MIDI ports, Jason?
They're on the side.
They're on
here.
that side.
Yeah.
They're on that side. Yeah. Okay. Colour, monochrome monitor. What have you gone for?
Monochrome. It was always monochrome for music applications. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you wanted the resolution there for the note data and all the other stuff.
Now, Jason's got a really impressive keyboard to pair with this. I think it's too big to get on the desk here.
Yeah, I would say so.
So we're going to see that a little bit later. Is it Cubase, did you say, that you'll be running on here?
Cubase is one of the packages. That was pretty much the industry standard back in the day, but there are a few others that I will be demonstrating as well.
Yeah. And this is just the start of what's going to go in the DevDem. There will be ways to demonstrate other bits of kit like the MT32, the sound canvases. You're talking about getting a keytar to.
I've actually already got one. Yes, yeah. That's that. Yeah, I mean, we're hopefully going to be doing a few sort of performances.
Yeah. And in a couple of weeks' time, we've had a very kind donation of some little custom half-height racks and things like Akai samplers and other things that you can trigger through the MIDI ports, through the different systems.
Yeah.
So over time, the music setup is going to evolve, isn't it? And it's going to become something quite special.
Yeah.
Yeah. And period authentic, like everything else that you're setting up in.
Yes.
Just like the Amstrad, I can't wait to see this in action. Back to Richard now, and the new wall is up, and it's time to clad and paint it, in the hope we'll have a more complete feeling room to work with at the end of this. There was pizza involved. You missed out on that, Jason, but I'm not sure you're a big pizza man, are you?
Well, unfortunately, I am unable to eat cheddar cheese. So, yeah, I know. It's terrible, isn't it? So, yeah, probably best that I wasn't here when the pizza was around.
There was lots of pizza. And we worked late into the night here to get this all done on the end of day 3. And then that would give us a couple of days for painting those new panels because we're going to need a few layers on that untreated wood to get it nice and white. After a quick sweep up, I made an early start to get the first coat of paint on day 4 before Jason arrived, and he was going to help me for the rest of the day. I think we ended up putting 4 or 5 coats on these walls to get them looking good. There's a join in the middle where we've put the cladding on, which I've not filled yet because we haven't decided yet, Jason. Obviously something needs to cover up our sins there in the middle, whether it's a panel, a backlit strip, a dado rail, whatever it's going to be, we'll figure it out. But that's finishing touches for part 2. But
absolutely.
For the benefit of those in the comments section, we know there's a great big join down the middle of the wall, and we will fix that. After painting, it was time for an inspection by the boss, and I'm pleased to say it was 8 out of 8 thumbs ups. Thank you, Spidey. And it was time to get the new carpet tiles down. The process of putting these tiles down involved putting new carpet tackifier down. This is the first time I've done this. Have you put carpet tiles down before?
Never.
No, right. So please don't look to us for advice or experience, but I think we sussed it out. We put the tackifier down. We didn't get any on our trousers. We waited 40 minutes for it to be ready, and then we popped the new tiles down. Jason, what's the colour name of these new tiles?
It's ultra beige.
Ultra beige, not just normal beige. These are ultra beige, and you chose these, didn't you?
I did. I mean, it was just pure coincidence that the one that actually looked right had that name, so it's perfect.
It was perfect because beige alone wasn't enough. We needed ultra beige. White, ultra beige and orange are going to be the main colours of this build. Jason has been building orange panels to go on the walls, which we'll see in part 2. And there'll be plenty of perhaps orange accessories, things like that to just complement it.
Absolutely.
Still buying some of those accessories, aren't we?
Yes.
Still figuring it out.
Yes.
So you guys watching here, if you've got any suggestions for what you'd like to see in a... I don't want to call it a faux 70s set.
No, it's kind of that sort of late 70s, early 80s retro-futurism look.
Retro-futurisms. We did come up just a few tiles short on this day, so I think the last box has arrived today, actually, as we're filming this.
I believe so,
we'll get them down at the end of this episode. And we can see here, we've taken what started as our messy little storeroom, and it's turned into, well, something that we can work with now, and something that I think after 5 days we were pretty proud of, weren't we?
I was absolutely amazed at what we'd achieved.
Okay, here we are at the end of stage 1, the unfinished room. Enthusiastic looking Jason there. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
It's a lot whiter, it's a lot cleaner, it's a lot beiger, and as we come around here, you can obviously see the desk where the PDS system will be. And there will be a partition between that and this, which is the music corner, where there's a very impressive set of keys, and that's where the Mega STE will be paired up with that, and all sorts of accessories to go with it. Jason, just tell us about this keyboard.
This is a music workstation from 1989, so it's of the period. It's a successor to the famous Korg M1 synthesizer that was one of the most well-known synthesizers in the 80s. And it's a very sophisticated bit of kit, and it's going to go really nicely with the Mega STE.
I'm pleased to say that the missing carpet tiles have just arrived, so I'm going to fit them this afternoon. So the carpet will be finished for part 2. As you walk around, you can see it's much whiter. It does have a very different feel to the cave, doesn't it? You're definitely in a different exhibit, a different area.
Oh, absolutely.
The Iron Maiden still needs to be clad. That's where the screws came through from the cladding on the outside of the wall. So we're going to clad that. We need to build a hidden door, a feature. We're working on a few ideas for the comms room and the elevator service door here. Got a few ideas up my sleeve, but that's going to take some time for part 2. But I think we've come a long way in a week. I know to some it just looks like a white room, but I'm really proud of what we've done. And I can see how it's going to work. We've got your development area, we've got your music area, which I can't wait to see set up. And we've got a whole wall to celebrate development, to celebrate Jason's history, other developers' history. Just this Saturday, we had a visitor, didn't we? It was Andrew Haig.
That's right, yes.
Unexpectedly popped into the cave, the designer of Colin McRae's rally. And that's the kind of visitors that we get in. This weekend coming, we've got Mike Daly coming in to see the next project, which you'll see in the next video, which is the Lemmings arcade cabinet build. And when these people come in, they can fill in the gaps in our knowledge in the history of development. We can pass that information on to visitors, and it just becomes self-fulfilling, doesn't it? Jason puts into practice the tips he gets from these hardened developers, and eventually he spits out a game that we publish. Yeah,
that's the idea.
No pressure, Jason.
Yeah.
But mostly we're going to enjoy this space. And we both can't wait to show you part 2. I think we might allow ourselves a day off, and then we'll get stuck into part 2. Interior design, Jason.
Absolutely, and equipment setup, lots of wiring.
Setup. Cleaning.
Oh, yes.
I'll happily clean that PDS for you, and we'll just get it all nice. And then at the end of it, we will show you it on a public day and just show you how the space works in its first iteration and whether it's a success or not. But really pleased to be expanding the cave in this way. And well, I don't want to trouble you just now, Jason, but there is another storage room we need to clear out and develop into an exhibition space, but we won't think about that just yet. We'll finish this one first.
Yeah, let's recover from this one first, shall we?
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to watch. If you'd like to come and check this out for yourself, go to retrocollective.co.uk, where you can book a ticket to visit. If you love what we do, go to patreon.com/RMCretro. Don't forget, Jason has a channel now with no content, so there's never been a better reason to subscribe.
Absolutely.
Go and click on the link in the description. We'll build him up a following and we can see what he gets up to in here. And I can't wait to see what becomes of the dev den. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks.